No matter what camera you're using, even a smartphone, the two most important aspects of getting awesome images are composition and lighting. Now, imagine having conversations with Chris Burkhardt, Bob Holmes, Chase Jarvis, and even Mark Silver about their composition wisdom. Here are quick but very powerful tips you can watch and go right out and use.
First thing is I look at the scene without the camera. I walk around without the camera pressed to my face, because when you put the camera to your face, you see a lot less than you do just walking around. So I'm going to walk the area that I'm going to shoot without the camera to my face and look for interesting things. When I find things I'm going to shoot, or I can build a scene in my mind, then I'll start putting the pieces together, and that's kind of a visualization for me. So when I'm visualizing, I know exactly how I want this thing to look. I know I want this edge of the frame to be next to this tree, and I want my subject running or jumping into this part of the frame. And I even actually pre-visualize all the way to what this could look like in post-production.
Sometimes the simple moments are the best, whether you're out camping somewhere and you're shooting just somebody like reading by their headlamp at the middle of the night, or kind of like a pullback scenic of where you parked your van to hide out for the evening while you're waiting for the surf in the morning, something like that, or whether it's just like late afternoon, evening light kind of beaming down through like some fields, and you're just sitting there watching the waves. I mean, any simple little thing that's going to kind of spark an interest or spark a meaning in someone, I think that's kind of what I aim for, because for me that's what it is.
I like getting close to subjects so that you feel part of the scene. And then the composition, I do almost intuitively. I'm always scanning the edges of the frame automatically, because we're responsible for everything in that frame. As a photography, it's your fault if there's something in there that shouldn't be.
Right.
If there's the antenna coming out of someone's head or whatever, it's your fault. You should have seen that. Be fully involved with your subject.
Right.
To take your very best photographs, you have to be on your own.
Yes.
And you have to give the subject 100% of your concentration. You have to be there.
Right.
And aware of everything. And that includes when you're looking through the camera, even before you look through the camera, be aware of everything that's going on in that image that you're hoping to capture.
When you stop and think about what's going to be the most significant thing, a lot of times it's not necessarily what you're seeing, but it's what someone else might be seeing. And so if you kind of take a step behind them, that's a good way to try and survey things too.
Photographs often need a punctuation point.
Tell me about that in that.
And in this, this young boy practicing is the punctuation.
Right.
And I guess you could call it a decisive moment, but it's a moment when his attitude was good. You could read him as a ballet dancer. It's obvious that he's practicing a ballet stance.
Right.
And those kinds of details are absolutely critical. I shot this, I rarely take a single frame. I shot several frames of this, and this was the one that I like the best because of his attitude. And it's not just, it's punctuation, but there's also has to be the right gesture. And this combines both.
Henry Cartier-Bresson, who was one of my mentors as a photographer, basically coined a phrase called just the decisive moment. He's one of the most prolific photographers from the last century. And he is all about capturing that exact moment when something is occurring. You could say, well, does he visualize even that? Because these things have to happen in a split second. The answer is yes. There still has to be a moment of where you put yourself. Where do you point your camera? And anticipate the action so that you're capturing it at that right exact moment. That's still a visualization process.
I fantasize about it a little bit. What could I put in here to make this the absolute best picture? More often than not, it means simplifying the frame, and I fantasize about making the best picture. And then the last, which is I think kind of marquee of my work, is trying to do something that is unusual. How can I put a little twist on it? Or as we say when we're on set, how can we turn this one on its head? And I look for ways to make it different, and those are the little things that separate it from making it an interesting photograph to a great photograph.
I'm looking for just things that kind of stack up and lead your eye away. whether it's a straight line or whether it's, you know, the angle of the beach or something like that, framing is key. Whether it's a branch or, you know, you can take the most average mundane shot of just a beach with, you know, maybe a simple backdrop, and you know, kind of put a branch in there, you kind of peek through a tree or out a doorway or a window, and you just add an instant frame that kind of, you know, offsets your photo and makes that much more unique.
But it's the symmetry that made the shot. You know, I wanted it to be symmetrical.
Yeah.
It just came together for me as a symmetrical photograph. And, you know, very often portraits I shoot symmetrically. This portrait of a guy in Western Cuba smoking a cigar, I wanted the cigar because it's Cuba. Mm-hmm. I like his hat in the background framing the photograph.
Yeah.
And then I shot it until the smoke was in just the right configuration. It took a lot of frames. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes the smoke went over his face, over his eyes. With this kind of shot, you always have to focus on the eyes, because we always have eye contact. Whether it's a painting, a photograph, or in person, we always look at each other's eyes. So if the eyes are soft, it's not going to work.
Right.
You know, always focus on the eyes. The fact that the tip of the cigar is not sharp is irrelevant. You don't even really notice. But it's a symmetrical photograph. It needed to be symmetrical, mainly because of the hat framing the shot. Mm-hmm. But I use symmetry quite often.
So this one, in a small village in Spain, but the story behind this is seeing those clouds. I got this angle from where I was looking up at the clouds, but also getting an interesting sort of geometry with these buildings. And by the way, geometry plays a huge part in photography. Here's a geometric set of forms. Your eye just tends to be sort of drawn to it if you can line those geometric shapes up. Thanks for joining me, and thanks to our guest, Chase Jarvis, who's reminding you to follow their advice, Chris Burkhart, and Bob Holmes. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our new videos. And leave your comments here. I love hearing from you. Follow me on Instagram and hashtag your photos AYP Club, and remember to get out and capture your own images of life.